Okay, so this is a follow-up video to my video which I uploaded just yesterday talking about the Fiend and whether or not WWE games will indeed let him in. Now, I wanted to kind of expand a little bit on that conversation because I have been thinking about the Fiend, but more about Bray Wyatt himself, because just getting the Fiend wouldn't quite represent every part of this Bray Wyatt gimmick that we have right now. I believe to represent Bray Wyatt in his current form, you do need to have two versions of Bray Wyatt, not just the Fiend. You need to have the happy-go-lucky Bray that resides in the Firefly Funhouse, and then of course you do need the alter ego that is the Fiend. Now, I was thinking about this so much that I came up with another idea that I thought would be different for a WWE game. I think it would work, and I think it would tie in with 2K's mission statement of being fun. Because what I also thought you could do is you could have one superstar slot which is dedicated to the happy-go-lucky Bray Wyatt, and then in the middle of a match, I don't know, you could come up with your own rules around it. But let's just say you press the analog stick in, or you press R3, and then the happy-go-lucky Bray transforms as a puff of smoke, something like that, or the lights go out. I'd probably say a puff of smoke would be better for a transition mid-match. And all of a sudden, happy-go-lucky Bray turns into the Fiend. I actually think that would look super cool in a WWE game, and it'd be an awesome trait for that version of Bray Wyatt. Now, you could probably play or select to be the Fiend if you want to be him from the offset, but I just think maybe with that ability to change into the Fiend mid-match would just be awesome. It's a bit different because of course it wouldn't happen so simply in a WWE ring if we're going for a simulation based style of game with the realism. However, the Fiend is supposed to have that sort of aura around him that he can come and go as he please, and it rests in the back of Bray Wyatt's mind. It's only an issue when he lets him in, and that's what you could do. You could let him in mid-match and it could turn the table of a match, or your opponent could think, oh Jesus Christ, I'm going up against the Fiend now. Alternatively, this might be something, depending on how the character goes for years to come in a WWE game, I would love an actual mode where this happened. So you start off, it'd be like a boss. You start off with the happy-go-lucky Bray, you got to try and topple him, but through the match, you know, if you try and chip away at him, he could then turn into the Fiend, become extra OP, and by God, you have got a fight on your hands. It'd be a bit like Undertaker Defeat the Streak. However, the tricks that Bray Wyatt will have will be twice as many, and he can utilize the Fiend. So I just kind of think, wow, so many ideas for this. But you know, that's me taking a huge step forward, maybe for another WWE game. But I will say, in this edition, 2K20, I think you need the two versions of Bray Wyatt. In fact, I'll go as far to say that you probably need three. And it wouldn't be unheard of for 2K to do this, because we've had like 5 or 6 versions of Sting. I'm probably exaggerating that, but we have. We've had plenty of versions of Daniel Bryan last year with the 2K showcase. So I wouldn't say it's unrealistic to have 3 versions of Bray Wyatt. And we already know as well, as part of the 2K Originals content, we're going to get some sort of tree-like creature, I'm not sure what it is, that version of Bray. So maybe we're going as far to have 4, because I would say that you do need the original Bray Wyatt, or the incarnation of Bray Wyatt before he went away and developed the Firefly Funhouse. So you'd have that version, you'd have the 2K Originals version, you'd have the happy-go-lucky Bray, and of course you'd have the Fiend. So that's what I think we should have for WWE 2K20. Whether we'll get it or not, we have no idea. We don't know. We don't know how far in development the Fiend is. We talked about that in my previous video. But I do think you should have the Fiend and the happy-go-lucky version of Bray, because that version was so important to build up to the Fiend. And without that version, I don't think it would have generated as much interest as it did for when he became the Fiend. So he is a hugely important character to Bray Wyatt, and he is an extension of that Wyatt character. He is not just the Fiend every week. So it would be nice to have the option, particularly for someone like myself who creates a universe mode. I would absolutely love to try and maybe shoot a Firefly Funhouse created, then introduce the Fiend later on, or just use that happy-go-lucky Bray to maybe ease Bray Wyatt into my universe mode. There's lots of options and there's lots of reasons why it requires both. But we'll have to wait and see. I don't think it would be that difficult to have both, because in all honesty, the happy-go-lucky Bray, I bet people are getting annoyed that I keep calling him that, but I can't think of anything else. What would you like to call him? What is the one that resides in the Firefly Funhouse called, that version of Bray? Tell me in the comment section. But I'll stick with what I'm saying for now. But it wouldn't be that difficult, because it just is Bray Wyatt in, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's teacher wear, but you could say that as well. So I want to get your views and opinions on this. I thought that yesterday's video we talked about whether or not it does seem like it's more resounding that you guys think no, Bray Wyatt is not going to be in the game as the Fiend. We're not going to get him. It is too late. And if it is, then I entirely appreciate that, because, you know, if WWE haven't given 2K the heads up, then so be it. But if we are lucky enough to get a WWE game with the current incarnation of Bray Wyatt, I would go for the fact that you have to have the Firefly Funhouse Bray and of course the Fiend. And if we're going to develop them, you should probably put the old model in, and of course you've got the 2K Originals content as well of that thing that is Bray Wyatt. So I'm interested to hear from you. Would you like to see that? I would also, if I was doing this, I would put the Firefly Funhouse as, you could probably just call it a backstage area. I think that's what you could class it as. I think you could put that in as well. It'd be nice just to utilise that. And then for creators like myself, you could use that for your universe or whatever stories you're wishing to create. So, you know, just because he hasn't actually wrestled or taken anybody there or done anything in it apart from cut promos, well, I'd still like to have it nonetheless. So what do you think, guys? Do you think the two versions would be good? If we are going to get a version of Bray Wyatt this year in its current form, the version that is most likely to be seen would be Happy-Go-Lucky Bray. Because if you think about it, 2K have had time to prep for that version. What they haven't had time for is to accommodate everything that the Fiend has brought to the table in the recent weeks, particularly now after SummerSlam. So I reckon we could more likely get that Happy-Go-Lucky Bray, but whether or not people would be appeased by that, I simply don't know, because in all honesty, everybody just wants to get their hands on the Fiend. They want to let him in. So anyway, let me know what you think. You know, do you think it's worth having that Happy-Go-Lucky Bray in addition to the Fiend? Are you just happy with the Fiend? I think many would be. If you just had a Fiend, I'd be happy with that. But if we could get everything we wanted, what would you have as part of the Bray Wyatt kind of package, if you will? I would definitely have the Firefly Funhouse. Very hard to say that quickly, you know. But I'd definitely have that as a backstage prop. I would definitely go for the Happy-Go-Lucky Bray to be in there, and also to the Fiend. But as well, what did you think of my idea where you could almost trigger the Fiend to appear? I just think it'd be so good. It's more an arcadey thought because I can see that in sort of things like Injustice or Mortal Kombat. But I do think, yeah, I like that. I like the thought process of that happening mid-match in the ring. So what do you think about that too? Just wanted to throw those opinions out there to follow up my video yesterday. I saw so many of your comments and you guys saying it's not going to happen, but let's be optimistic. Let's continue to talk about the conversation and we'll have to wait and see. But for now, I'll leave you with the same of what I said yesterday. Will WWE Games let him in? See ya!